Hello and good day, everyone. I hope that all of you are doing great. My name is Evelyn Ha, and I'm currently a student studying Masters in Early Childhood Education at OUM Green Hill Learning Center in Ipoh. Today, I am going to present my observation report for the subject Early Intervention Theory and Practice for the code HMEC5323. The purpose of this presentation is to strengthen my knowledge about early intervention, availability, and services for young children who have developmental delays or disabilities. To do that, I research frequently about early intervention theory and practice. Now, we are going to take a look at what is early intervention. Early intervention is a program of coordinated services that are designed for families of young children with or at risk of developmental delays or disabilities. The main goal for an early intervention system is to help families set a positive direction for their child's development. Besides nurturing a set of personal strengths and skills, which helps prepare a child for a better quality life, in the future, early intervention specialists also works in areas to prevent problems from occurring by handling difficult challenges head-on. Now, we are going to take a look at the IFSP process, which is the use for helping children and their families with developmental delays. The Individualized Family Service Plan, IFSP, is a written treatment plan that outlines early intervention services that the child and family will receive and how these services will be administered. One of the key principles of the IFSP is the family is the child's greatest resource, as children are closely secured to the needs of their family. Therefore, the parents are the major IFSP contributors to their children's development. Involvement of other IFSP team members will depend on what the child needs, such as medical personnel, child development specialists, therapists, and social workers. Here, we are going to take a look at the first step. Step 1 is to identify family concerns, priorities, and resources. The IFSP service coordinator will need to recognize the family concerns, priorities, and resources in order to guide the entire process. Early intervention should be seen as a program of coordinated services and support which are available to families to help enhance their capacity to care for their children who are with or at risk of development delays or disabilities. Next, moving on is step 2. Step 2 is identify the family's activity settings. The IFSP service coordinator will document the child's enjoyable everyday routines, such as play activities and bath times, to analyze the purpose if these activities offer any sustained engagement for the child that could lead to further learning opportunities. Similarly, the IFSP service coordinator will identify the activity sustainability around the family's community, such as childcare, swimming, and horse riding program that might provide chances for learning. Next, we are going to take a look at step 3. Step 3 is conduct a functional assessment. In order to generate an effective assessment process for the child, family questions about enhancing their child's development as well as their concerns and priorities are highlighted and being addressed by the IFSP Service Coordinator. The IFSP Service Coordinator also collects data on the evaluation conducted on the child by the early intervention specialist at the start of the process to determine if the child is eligible for intervention services or not. Next, we are going to take a look at step 4. Step 4 is collaborative develop expected outcomes. After the assessment is completed, the IFSP Service Coordinator will meet to review all the gathered information to develop statements of expected outcomes of goals for the child and the family. Active participation from the family is very important because they are collaborative goals in the IFSP program, which addresses on enhancing the family capacity and also increasing the child's participation in value activities. The next step is step 5. Step 5 is assign intervention responsibilities. The early intervention team will assign responsibilities for intervention strategies that will support the expected outcomes highlighted in the previous step. Team members also provide ongoing direct or indirect service to the child and the family, such as consultation. For example, an occupational therapist can observe the child during meal times at one of the home visit sessions, and then recommend to the parent how to physically assist the child with eating if the child is struggling with self-adaptive skills. The final step for the IFSP process is step 6. Step 6 are identify strategies to implement the plan. The IFSP team work closely to increase the child's learning opportunities by maximizing the child's surroundings to facilitate learning, selecting the most effective strategies to bring about the desired outcomes for the child and the family, as well as to reinforce methods that best support the child's learning. Now, we are going to take a look at the efforts of parents to help the child to improve. One of the most crucial efforts that parents can do is to ensure that they are constantly involved with and be active members of their child's individual education program, IEP, that will determine their child's positive direction of development. Parents' role in the IEP team is important as they can provide the needed information to childcare providers and practitioners. Parents need to develop a support network as well with the child's educators and early intervention specialists. Parents need to establish a consistent pattern of communication. in order for them to practice intervention strategies at home as well, through listening to the perception of the child's educators. This will help to reinforce the efforts on both sides. For example, parents might adhere to the suggested method by the childcare provider in providing in-between breaks while guiding schoolwork or teaching a skill to the child, especially for children with sensory impairments. This allows the child to relax and refocus. Next, we are going to take a look at some efforts from childcare providers that could help the child. First, setting goals through the child's development of an individualized education programs, IEP, is an important part of working with children with developmental delays or difficulties. Efforts given by the childcare providers in assisting with the development of IEP can be in the form of suggesting appropriate assertive technology intervention to ensure effective learning environment for the children with different types of disability. Besides that, offering experience in providing behavior modifications to address different behavior challenges, as well as imparting comprehensive knowledge and learning about challenges and disability in early childhood education are part of the efforts from childcare providers. Besides that, knowing what childcare providers can do and need to know about the demands of early intervention in early childhood education, these professionals can make the effort as well to obtain more education and training in early intervention theory and practices in order to help contribute to the child's well-being and future potential. Finally, consistent, frequent, and a two-way communication between home and school are needed to effectively promote children's learning. If parents and childcare providers are able to share information about the child's needs, interests, and growth, it can also help both inform the two sides with respect of the child's behavior and achievement. This will help the childcare providers to have a better understanding when it comes to integrating intervention or instructional strategies that will help to meet the individualized learning needs of the child. Sample of communication can be verbal, print materials such as school, home newsletter, homework hotlines, home visits, phone calls, and personal notes from the teacher. Next, we are going to take a look at the efforts from early intervention specialists that could help the child to improve. Besides service delivery and providing consultation during IFSP meeting, early intervention specialists should make the effort to consistently review the child's progress and set achievable goals and activities for the child. For instance, physical therapists should pay extra attention to what the child can do and not just focus on the delays or disability in order to build the child's overall motor skills. Having early intervention specialists seeing the child as a person and look beyond the delays or disabilities is another form of positive attribute in creating a child-centered sessions. Besides being competent, skilled, and knowledgeable in the areas of expertise, the relationship between the early intervention specialist and the child and the family are more likely to be successful if the professionals place his or her effort in creating both a family-centered and child-centered session and being professional at the same time. For instance, a child psychologist should be focused on finding solution that works best not only for the child but for the entire family as well, in order to create a family-centered environment. Another example in the form of occupational therapists could make the effort to develop creative intervention strategies that goes well with the daily life of the child and the family. Now, we are going to take a look at the recommendation on the best practices for early intervention. While deciding how to provide early intervention or instructional for young children with developmental delays or disability, early childhood educators should relatively base their decision on what universally known as evidence-based practices. In this observation report, two evidence-based practices in early childhood education that are highlighted are embedded intervention and assertive technology interventions. Embedded intervention here means this approach integrates the use of either intervention or instructional strategies to address a specific learning aim within the framework of the child's everyday activities, routines, transition occurring at home, school, and in the community. In embedded intervention, the observation report has highlighted on specific naturalistic strategies. This strategy is one of the best methods used in early childhood environment because it is closely related to the developmental appropriate practice DAP by focusing on strategies that are child-directed. In addition, specific naturalistic strategies are used to encourage social interaction and language skills in young children and also to engage responsive environment in the classroom. Now, we are going to take a look at the model and expansion technique, which is part of the specific naturalistic strategy. This method involves providing young children with either a verbal or gestural model and also an expansion with new information, and it is especially effective to be applied on children who are diagnosed with speech and language delays or disability. For example, the teacher shows the child the desired object, for instance, a ball, and then the teacher would say, "Ball," or say "ball" to the child. The teacher would then pause expectantly, looking directly at the child. Once the child provides the desired response to the teacher, then the teacher will provide the desired object or an action to the child. The teacher also includes an expansion of what the child had said. For instance, "Okay, you want the red ball." The word "red" refers to the expansion of information. In terms of assertive technology interventions, this approach refers to the practice on implementing the use of technology tools which are appropriate for young children based on their individualized needs. The practice of evaluating children and also monitoring the effects of these specific technologies in order to increase independence for young children with developmental delays or disabilities. For instance, some of these specific technologies are alternative keyboards, audio books, hearing aids, and motorized chairs. Preschool teachers are constantly motivated to create a universal design learning atmosphere whereby all children can participate, support a variety of skills, and be socially engaging with peers. For example, children who have difficulties with coping to learn that involves handwritten text may use the technical tools for human speech recognition and synthesizing in the classroom. Now we are going to take a look at some key principles of early intervention practices in the United States of America. Here are some of the key principles. All families with the necessary support and resources can enhance their children's learning and development. Besides that, the consistency of an adult in a child's life have the greatest influence on their learning and development, despite their disabilities. Another key principle is all families are resourceful. However, all families do not have equal access to resources for further opportunities. There are two organizations highlighted here in the key principles of early intervention practices in the United States of America. One of the organizations is the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. This organization highlights that parental involvement in any program is crucial for the child's success of learning and development. Another organization is American Occupational Therapy Association. This organization highlights that occupational therapy practitioners uses family-centered help-giving practices in order to maximize their session to help the child. In conclusion, good and active parenting are extremely important in the development of children, especially those who are at risk of developmental delays or difficulties. Besides that, early childhood educators and practitioners have the responsibility to make thoughtful choices when it comes to designing and implementing individualized intervention and instruction for young children with delays or disabilities. I hope that all of you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you and have a nice day.